Right, we break away from that parliamentary crossing right now to bring you news about how Sports and Recreation Minister Tembelani, also known as Nxesi, is about to make an urgent announcement on two ministerial committees of inquiry. It's not exactly clear what the inquiries relate to, but we do believe that it may have to do something with regards to the club versus country debate that rages across South African football. But we cross now live to the Imbizo Centre at Parliament, where the minister makes his announcement.
Will be made available to the media. Our statement is coming now. Let's just highlight some of the issues which are of serious concern. First, in relation to the Ministerial Committee of Inquiry to investigate the alleged board-related governance issues and non-adherence to SASCOC's constitution that impact negatively on SASCOC and sport in general. That's the first one. And this comes in response to numerous serious allegations. And some of you have been writing about those in the media, others directed to my office. And these were from the board members, the national federations, and aggrieved individuals. Allegations of poor governance, of financial mismanagement and non-adherence to the SASCOC's constitution, and the failure of SASCOC board to respond adequately on these allegations. And in the light of these serious allegations, I've decided, after consultation of course, to appoint a committee of inquiry consisting of a retired judge and two additional members, and of course a team leader for leading evidence with all the experience in the field of constitutional matters, governance and administration to investigate, make findings, report on, and make recommendations in relation to these mentioned recommendations, or in relation to the mentioned related governance issues and alleged non-adherence to this constitution of SASCOC. Such serious allegations have to be tested by an independent inquiry. Fundamentally, the issue here is that the integrity of our national sport structures must always be above reproach, so that we can safeguard the interest of all stakeholders, of athletes, official sponsors, and even the fans. This is critical in ensuring efficient and effective governance, which is necessary foundation for our goals of development and transformation. I must emphasize this, that the appointment of this judge to chair this commission and the two assistants will be announced in due course. And remember that we are dealing with this, or with these appointments, through our Justice Department and even the Treasury. So they are the ones who have to help us to appoint the right people. So that is in relation to the first one. And we go to the second one, which is in relation to the Ministerial Committee of Inquiry to investigate the facts and events that led to the death and injury of spectators at the soccer match between Orlando Pirates and Kaizer Chiefs on the 29th of July, 2017 at FNB. the issue is that the safety of the fans must always be a priority. It cannot be that loyal fans go out to enjoy a day of sport only for tragedy to befall them. The bare facts are known. They are known to all of you. The stampede that occurred at the Chiefs Pirates game at FNB resulted in 2 deaths, 2 fans critically injured, and further 19, including a child, receiving minor injuries. This can never be acceptable, hence the need for an inquiry. And I'm aware that the PSL is to hold its own investigation, and we welcome that. But this is a very serious matter where government has to take the lead by appointing an independent committee of inquiry. It is also government that can implement the legislative and the regulatory measures that any findings and recommendations may require. And given the sensitivity of this matter, I do not want to say much to speculate on the possible causes at this stage, save to outline some of the areas to be reviewed and investigated. The stadium design, we are informed that the 2010 stadia were world class in terms of safety features. The inquiry would need to interrogate this. And government's legislation, in particular, Sharia Act, that is the Safety at the Sports and Recreation Events Act, also based on international best practice and the findings of the Nxesi Commission into the Ellis Park tragedy, will need to be reviewed in response to the findings by the Committee of Inquiry. The inquiry will also seek to determine whether the law was contravened. I need to make the point that any such violations uncovered by the inquiry will automatically be referred by the chairperson of the inquiry to the NPA for prosecution. And most importantly, the inquiry will also look into the effectiveness of the operational planning and procedures and make findings and recommendations accordingly. I think there's a lot of evidence international in relation to this. So the Ministerial Committee of Inquiry will consist again of the retired judge, 2 additional members, and a team leader for leading evidence, all with appropriate experience to investigate and report to the Minister of Sport and Recreation South Africa on the reasons which resulted into the death and the injury of the spectators at the soccer match at the FNB. The actual appointments here, we are also finalizing them with justice, but already we've been given the chairperson. We can announce that the chairperson is Judge Ronnie Pillay, who will be leading this particular inquiry. We're just still finalizing the issue of the advocates of 1 or 2 who will be party to this. And the terms of reference of both committees require that these report back to the Minister of Sport and Recreation within a month of their appointment. And we have attached for you very clear terms of reference, the background, the terms of reference of each of the 2 for your own reference. That's what we have. The Deputy Minister will answer the questions, and the DG will be requested to give any technical detail if it's necessary. We don't want to compromise him. He might also be forced to go and give evidence. So we don't want to preempt anything. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. We're going to open up Now for questions. And just the way that the Minister said it, also the DG and the Deputy Minister are available to also respond to all other questions. So we're going to open up for questions here, and then we're going to cross over to Pretoria. Okay. So I'm going to take 1, 2. Are there any more questions from our side? I've got 3. I've got 4. So we'll take this first round. So 4 questions will all flow, and then therefore we'll get the responses. Okay. So please indicate from which medium you come from. Okay. Thank you.
Carl Lewis from EWN Sport. I just want to know, can you get specific about the allegations against SASCOC, and does the inquiry include the recent sexual allegations against CEO Tabireni?
That's the first question. The second question?
Minister Abu Kogan from the SABC. My first question has been covered by my colleague also on the actual allegations that were directed to immigration to the first Ministerial Committee. The second one, any time frames with regard to this?
That's the second question, yes. There's a third question?
Good morning, sir. Lukan Talabo from SABC. Just on the issue of SASCOC, it seems that this organization is constantly, within turmoil. What are the issues there, and when can we get to a point where SASCOC isn't facing some manner of issues within the board, and just basically implementing its mandate? There always seems to be problems at SASCOC. What seems to be the issues? Is it money related? Is it people's egos? What's the problem? Because the longer this continues, the more SASCOC is distracted from actually doing what it's meant to do, which is obviously to improve sports in the country. But just in your opinion, sir, what are the fundamental structural issues at SASCOC that are not functioning as they should? Thank you.
Thanks, Lukan. The last question? On the first set of questions, yeah.
Thank you so much, sir. Sorry, Mr. Percival Young from KNews. But I just want to ask you, just for clarity's sake, I'm not very familiar with the process here at Parliament. Was there any need for Mr. Nxesi and his leadership to be at Parliament today during this announcement day? And secondly, the CFO, according to reports in the newspapers, he's also facing suspension at the moment. SASCOC CFO. Is that the case? Can you confirm that, sir? And has the current announcement that you're making today, the investigation, the allegations around SASCOC, has that any impact on our performance in London, for instance, just recently? Could we have achieved much more or not?
To our panel, Minister.
You see, if you read our terms of reference, they're very specific on the issues which have to be investigated. There have been allegations and counter-allegations from federations. One of them is the Athletics South Africa. And some of them are coming from the board members themselves who are sitting within that board. And allegations relating to poor governance. But some of them are allegations even relating to how the structure was elected in their, is it a conference or what? Yes, in their conference last year in November, whether the constitution was properly followed. And that has even led to a co-option of about 4 members. And now others are arguing that was unconstitutional because instead of 4, 5 were co-opted. Now there's a debate as to who should be removed. Apparently it has gone into their board 3 times, apparently. Voting, different results. So they are putting those allegations. Now, we felt very strongly that a lot of issues relate to what we would call proper governance. You would remember that when I came into the department about 4 months ago, one of the things which I emphasized was the issue of proper governance. I've always been very concerned about issues of governance, and I said I would be looking into that. And therefore, a confederation where all our federations are affiliated to is supposed to be exemplary. But in dealing with that, we also have to be impartial. That's why we've had to put an independent inquiry. And apparently, things are not going according. There's a lot of wrangling. And I think the question is relevant. Maybe the Deputy Minister will talk to that. The question is relevant because if there's internal wrangling within the leadership, it's bound to affect the performance and the preparation. We are preparing the teams for next year, early next year for that matter, to Australia.
Gold Coast.
Yes, or to the Gold Coast, yes. So this is very serious. And as to the issue of the suspension of the CEO, I cannot say much about that except to say, when this matter was raised with us, our stance was very simple. It's a labor relations matter. It must be treated as such. The board must deal with that matter in terms of the policies of SASCOC, in terms of the policies of sports and recreation, and in terms of the policies of the country when it comes to such issues. And we gave them a month to deal with that particular matter because we also said it's a very serious matter happening also during the Women's Month. And I guess it's common knowledge that he had been suspended by the board. We're not sure how far they've gone, but we would be expecting a report from them. But we would allow them time to deal with the matter properly. And we're very clear that they must deal with the matter procedurally. Lawyers on these matters, and I got it when I was a shop steward of the teachers, lawyers talk about the audi alterim partem rule, that it's important when you deal with these matters that you also hear the other side and you process this matter properly. So we have allowed them to deal with that as an employment issue because we guess that these days all institutions do have, and guided also by the Constitution of the country, do have policies in relation to employment policies in relation to such matters of sexual harassment. Timeframes. The timeframes we've given these committees or these inquiries a month. Well, we will leave it to them. We don't want to pressurize them, but at least you must always put a deadline. They might come back and say there's still a lot to be done. You see, Lukanya, what we do not want to do is to preempt the investigation and have a lot of speculation. We would be acting unfairly. And if we allow the Commission to do that and deal with the issues, whether it's what you're saying, it's personal egos, or what you're saying, it's capacity, or whatever, we don't know. But let's allow that investigation to continue. Maybe Deputy Minister and maybe the DG wants to talk about the preparations, especially the coming coming events.
Thank you, Minister. I think even here we've got to say that we do not believe that the current turmoil would have affected specifically London, because London was not the responsibility of SASCOC, because it's not a multi-coded event. It was a single event, which is...
Well, that was a sports minister briefing the media.